Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfail, sometimes known as the Bearded Dwarven Princess, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel about MMORPGs. Today we're going to be covering the top 5 MMORPGs that are free to play in 2022 if, and this is the big if part, you are someone who loves storyline, because that's what this list is all about. Games that feature great stories, epic storytelling, fun adventures. They might not necessarily have the best graphics, they might not be the most modern MMORPGs in the market, but they have storylines in spades, storylines that beat all of the other offerings currently on the market. In my opinion, of course, this list is highly subjective. Without further ado, let's dive into the very first game on my list. Welcome to Lord of the Rings Online. This is the one MMORPG that is continually installed on my PC. I've played it since the game first launched, and despite that fact, I've never actually beat the game. I've never actually cleared all the way through. My highest level character just got to Helm's Deep as of June 2022, which means I'm just now in my early 90s, and yet the game has characters up to I think about level 120 plus or something these days, and I've never gotten beyond this point. And the reason is because the game has such good storytelling that I'm continually going back and playing alts and having fun with lots of other people. My brother and I play this game. Chris and I play this game when I finally got her into MMORPGs. I play this with our gaming community off and on throughout the year. I continually play Lord of the Rings Online. Now, obviously, this is an older game. It's a little dated in a couple of areas. The combat's not the greatest. Some people complain about the graphics. I don't complain about the graphics. I think the game looks amazing. But the one thing that some people don't like is the fact that there's no voiceovers, and this is a text-based game for the most part, and you get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and more and more and lots and lots and lots and lots of text, walls of text, novel length walls of text. So unless you like reading, this might not be the game for you. But if you, like me, have a healthy love of Tolkien and all things Middle Earth, then this is going to be your go-to game. It's the number one game on my list for storytelling because it is, without a doubt, in my mind, the best story-based game out there. Plus, it's a established intellectual property that everyone knows, so it's really easy to get sucked into the world of Middle Earth and follow along with Frodo and Sam and Gandalf and Aragorn and all of the other characters that we know and love from the Lord of the Rings books. And keep in mind, this is based on the books, not necessarily the films. So even there are some visual references to the Peter Jackson films, everything else here is based on the book material. So we're getting absolute lore dumps for those of you who know the world of Tolkien and like to immerse yourself in it. Next up on the list is Star Wars The Old Republic, which, for my mind, is another one of those games like Lord of the Rings Online that I have had installed since the game launched. I've played this with my brother on and off over the years. I pretty much come back every 12 to 18 months and I'll subscribe for 3 to 4 months just so that I can go through the most recent expansions so that I can get up to speed with whatever is the most current content. Now, I don't play this game continually. Like I said, it's once every year, sometimes once every year and a half. But when I come in, I typically play this for 3 to 4 months and go through. Now, the things I love about this game is obviously it's Star Wars. I will always love Star Wars, no matter what kind of Star Wars we're talking about. This is a great game. It's also a great BioWare game in the sense that if you love good storyline, if you love fun single player experiences, then this is going to be a game that you want to tap into. Now, there are some caveats here because it is a little bit older these days, and some people say that the graphics are a little outdated, but I'm fine with that. I think they look good. If you expect something flashy, that's a little different, but from a stylized perspective, the graphics are pretty good. But again, focusing on storyline, this game has it in bucket loads, and it's fully voiced with highly cinematic experiences, whether you're talking about dialogue sequences or flash points or the cutscenes, so on and so forth. There's lots and lots and lots of story here if you want to immerse yourself into the Star Wars experience. Now, again, this isn't necessarily following the movies per se. It is definitely the old Republic environment, but it's still Star Wars at its nature, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. And I think this is a game that you should absolutely dive into if you've never done so before, just for storyline's sake. Next up on the list, we've got Elder Scrolls Online. Now, this is one of the few games that I think in my mind, Elder Scrolls Online has the best voiceovers of any game on the market. The voice acting in this game is top notch. The writing can sometimes be a little cheesy, but it can be that way in any game. But it's the voiceovers that really bring this home. And of course, the graphics don't hurt. They're pretty decent despite the fact that the game is starting to age a little bit. And since it has an established lore and IP behind it, it's a very easy game to get into. Plus, considering the fact that you can play this not just on the PC, but also on your chosen console, it makes Elder Scrolls Online a very easy game to get into because you can have your options. You don't just have to do it on the PC like you do with, say, Lord of the Rings Online or Star Wars: The Republic, which are very much PC only. Here, pick your console or a PC, you're good to go. Now, obviously, ESO is, like I said, an older MMORPG these days, but it does have a ton, and I mean a ton, of storyline and quest lines to do. You don't necessarily need a group to do any of it. Neither do you do with the previous games mentioned, but you can group up if you want to. Mostly, this is just a great single player storyline experience for you to sink your teeth into an established world, run around, see cool places, do cool things, and experience some of the best voice acting that I think exists in MMORPGs today. So get to it. Elder Scrolls Online, ladies and gentlemen. Hey everybody, this is the part of the video where I get to say hopefully you're enjoying the content today, and if you are, do me a solid. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get updates like this in the future, and don't forget you can always support me with a super thanks, which is a great way of dropping $2, $5, $10, whatever you feel comfortable with to support your favorite content creator. You can kind of look at me like you do Netflix or Hulu or Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Max. I'm a content creator. If you like good content, don't be afraid to support it. And of course, you can always join the Adventurers Guild, which is our membership option for folks here on YouTube. And if you want to get a little bit of game dev, a little bit of extra with your something something, you can go over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Wandering Hermits, where my brother, my wife, and I are building the world of the Weave and the Void, which is a 5th edition tabletop setting. It's also a point and click adventure game and a book series, kind of like Dragonlance. So if you like that kind of stuff, head over to the Patreon page. It's a great way to support the channel. Plus, you get some cool perks above and beyond everything you get here on YouTube. Next up is an oldie but a goodie, and that's EverQuest 2. Now, a lot of people don't know about EverQuest 2. It was a game that came out a few months before World of Warcraft did, and unfortunately, it got overshadowed by World of Warcraft to the point where it never really got a chance to spread its wings and fly. But it did have enough of a population to keep the game going with some really good expansions in the early years. They've kind of died off somewhat in the most recent years, but the game is still going. But when I talk about EverQuest 2, I like to tell people that the strongest era for the game are the first few expansions. And kind of leading up to Velius, if you really want to be a stickler about it, which gives you, half a dozen expansions more or less to sink your teeth into. And the good thing is that they are continually running progression servers for this game, with the most recent progression server, Varsoon, opening up in early 2022. Now, EverQuest 2 is not fully voiced, and the graphics can feel a little bit dated at times, but this is a game that has a great, great, great story at its core, whether you're doing your class quests or just the overall lore of the world as you run around and explore this alternate version of Norrath that is a little bit different than what exists in EverQuest 1. There is a lot of storyline to choose from here. There's plenty of solo quests. There's lots of group quests. There's signature quests, which give you all these amazing, huge quest lines that bring back items from the first game. There's heritage quests, etc., that do the same. There's lots of different quests that you can sink your teeth into. Tons of great lore. It's not fully voiced, so you are going to have to do a little bit of reading. But again, for a free-to-play game that has a great storyline, this is easily in my top 5 because it's such a great experience. And finally, I've got another game that is cross-platform in the sense that you can play it on PC or console. Again, this is another one that's a little dated and the graphics are not the best, but if you like episodic storytelling and if you like the Star Trek universe, then Star Trek Online is definitely a game that you need to try. It can be a little tricky to get into because you're controlling your party on the ground, your away team, as well as your ship. And your ship has a crew, and there's a lot going on here. And the controls can be a little wonky when you're trying to get used to the difference between controlling your away team versus controlling your ship. But once you settle into the way that this game operates, The story is what enables me to keep playing, even though I'm not a huge fan of the way the controls work or some of the graphics, because let's be fair, it is fairly old and the graphics are kind of meh. But again, episodic storytelling at its finest, especially if you love the Star Trek universe. I love the fact when you go do missions, you get the title popping up like it's the title sequence of one of the episodes of one of the shows. It's really cool the way this game is laid out, and there are a ton of storylines to go through set up into these sort of like book volumes, kind of the way that Lord of the Rings Online does it to some degree. And you're going to go through these book volumes with like these chapters and complete these overall story arcs. And there's lots of these story arcs to go through. So I think it's a great game to get into. Again, it is a little difficult because of the graphics, but if you can get past the graphics, the storyline is top notch. And it's an established franchise, and it pulls in lore from all of the shows, even the most modern shows that are airing right now, like Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard. So it's really cool in that. And it also has a lot of the actors from those shows doing voiceovers for their characters. So it's a pretty cool game that ties into the existing shows and canon very, very well. Anyway, that's my list of top 5 MMORPGs for those of you who love story based games. Hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content. Drop a super thanks on the video, and I'll see everybody in the next episode.